The wind is howling. The squirrels are gathering their nuts for the winter. It's a perfect time to curl up with a good book. A perfect time for Stranger in a Strange Land by Robert A. Heinlein. Heinlein was a funny fellow. I don't think there's many authors who have been accused of being a fascist sympathizer while also inspiring a real-world hippie commune. He's a hard guy to pin down, I think. It's hard to sort of pin down his politics, at least if you take his books at face value. Or the two. I've only read Starship Troopers and Stranger in a Strange Land. I'm not speaking as if I've read his entire oeuvre, but these two novels, they sort of function as a kind of Rorschach test, where you sort of bring to it whatever's already there. Like, you're going to see what you want to see. I feel like a lot of books or films, they sort of give lip service to that idea of just like, well, we want the audience to we want to leave it up to the audience. We want to leave it up to interpretation. I mean, and that's true. Like, you do want people to sort of take what they will from it. But I feel like Heinlein's one of the few that actually does accomplish it, where he's sort of just crafting a ink blot test, and you don't really know what he's thinking exactly. You just sort of, I don't know, like at the time that it was written, Stranger in a Strange Land, it inspired a real world commune. A lot of hippies seemed to really glom onto it. But reading it today, I read it as sort of a very prescient cautionary tale that people like this in the book should never be given power ever. So this is about a Earthman. He is raised on Mars. He comes back years later. He has these fantastical godlike powers where he can disappear objects and people on a whim. Later it's revealed that he can sort of engage in like telepathy and sort of can disappear out of his body, can sort of sort of vaguely alluded to. He can sort of abstract himself from his body. Part of my criticism of Heinlein is sometimes he does write a little too elliptically. Like there's moments where it seems to be taking place in heaven or something. There's these angels talking. I'm going to lower the blinds. There's a commotion outside. I'm going to lower the blinds. Some of his writing is just sort of too elliptical, and I maybe I'm dumb. Maybe I'm dumb. People were probably smarter back then, but some of it I didn't quite know what he was talking about. Especially again these sort of scenes that seem to, these little vignettes that seem to take place in the afterlife. But anyway, so 80% of this book, I feel like it was just kind of a light, meandering comedy. It sort of reminded me of Catch-22, and it was a pleasant experience, but it didn't really stir anything in me for 80% of the book. And then like the last 20%, it kind of starts to come together and sort of really make a point or give you the opportunity to divine a point. I read that his initial draft of this book was much longer, and he had to edit it for just it was just too long, and you kind of get the sense of that. Again, it sort of takes an abrupt, the pacing abruptly picks up, but on the other hand, I don't think it really needed to be any more than this, any longer, and I think it would start to you start to lose your attention of just, I don't know, your mind starts to wander. Anyway, so the last 20%, it really starts to come together as the man from Mars, he's gathered a collection of sort of like-minded, sort of free-spirited Earth people about him, and they're sort of learning each other's culture. And as the man from Mars starts to teach other people his language, the Martian language is in essence sort of a sort of magic key like his godhood. Like you learn the language, and then your mind sort of adopts the ability you gain the ability to sort of use your willpower to whatever, disappear people, get a mind link with people. And so once he starts like sort of forming his little commune, his little cult, as he sort of forms this little proto-religion, eventually martyring himself as a sort of Christ-like figure, that's when the book really starts to actually say something and get interesting. And again, I guess, if you are of the... along with these... I need to back up. So along with his like fantastical abilities, there's a certain... And this is another point where it's kind of maybe too elliptical, or I feel like it doesn't dive into the belief system too much. But essentially, as you attain this sort of godhood, you then sort of reach peace on earth, or at least peace in your little tribe, like the sort of commune that forms around the man from Mars. It's very, to me, it's just very sort of hedonistic, where the prime sort of goal seems to just be like to fuck everybody. Everybody is just all about fucking each other, and there's no jealousy, and it's great. It's sort of that ideal. That's sort of... I'm going to try and open the blinds again. Shed a little light on the subject. Opening the blinds. Okay. Anyway. So, that... Again, like, to me, that is not... I did not take any comfort. That is not my perception of sort of an ideal, well-functioning society. Me being, as I graduate into being a almost Ronald Reagan style bitter conservative, the idea of just sort of unfettered hedonism and just like fucking each other, and just nothing matters, and everybody is... There's a constant refrain of "Thou art God." They keep telling each other, "Thou art God." And I can see how... In my early 20s, I might have found that like an ennobling sentiment. That's sort of like will to power. You are your own... You are your own engineer of your own universe. Like, I could see how that could be like empowering to some people, but to me it's just sort of like I don't know, a grotesque sentiment. Part of it is just sort of, again, this is a very sort of prescient book where you could sort of graft a lot of 2022 onto this book from 1960, whatever. You got a lot of people who... It's a very narcissistic sentiment. "Thou art God" is a very narcissistic sentiment to me. And I think the last thing that we need anymore is just like this type of unfettered narcissism, and this sort of... Another thing which I really appreciate, and I feel like I feel very simpatico with Robert Heinlein. Again, not necessarily in what he might personally believe, but just like what like occupies his thoughts. I feel a very close kinship to him. And so, like, the man from Mars and his, like, the Martian language, and it's sort of the Martian language as it sort of bestows these sort of godlike powers, I sort of take it as a metaphor for just sort of unlimited, unfettered technology, a sort of cautionary tale against modernity, where it's not that people are ever going to get kinder or smarter or better. It's just that technology is just going to relieve them of the consequence of their stupidity or their evil. Like, so like the Martian language to me is just sort of unlimited technology that sort of liberates you from all consequence. And that's sort of the only way that you could have this ideal society as proposed in the book, is if you literally had like magic powers. If you literally had magic powers and people weren't going to fight you over money or their country or their beliefs. Like, sure, that would work just fine. Sure, I can envision a world then where it isn't so much hedonism as it is just sort of the ultimate freedom. There would be no need for whatever bad vibes, man, if you had basically superpowers to I don't know. There's lots of scenes of these sort of fantastical powers being used for very mundane chores almost. Like the dude smokes cigarettes, so his cigarettes like float into his pocket. They make food and they can sort of stir the soup with their mind, whatever. It's just sort of, I don't know. The application of these fantastical powers to just sort of mundane bullshit in service of just sort of relieving yourself of the burden of work or effort or conflict. So I don't know. So that's my Rorschach interpretation of the book. Is just, I take it as a cautionary tale of just, I don't know, not letting a subversive minority of weirdos with their own insular language and customs then worm their way in, because that's sort of revealed at the end of the book. Is he was essentially, the man from Mars was essentially sent from his home planet to sort of either find out how to, I don't remember exactly, but he said like part of why he was sent there was to potentially like subvert the Earth customs, to sort of what's the word I'm looking for, convert them to a more Martian way of life, so then Earth won't potentially whatever lash out and nuke Mars, nuke the universe. And I don't know. I take it as a cautionary tale to be wary of an insular group of weirdos who proclaim to have moral imperative over everybody else. Like it mentions that they just kill people who like are bad. Like they would, like the man from Mars says, yeah, we came around to, it's fine. We killed 400 people. We looked into their minds and their hearts, and we saw that they were bad people, and we killed them. We took the executive position to just kill them. And then they sort of, they're like cannibals. Like the man from Mars martyrs himself, and then they eat him in a soup. They eat him in a broth. And again, I don't know. I don't know if this is Heinlein, like, sincerely presenting the idea of something that is morally outside the norm to like challenge people, or if it, I don't know. I just sort of read it as like a cautionary tale. No, I don't want cannibals who are out to kill people, who think it's all right to kill people based on their own singular whims. I think that's kind of bad. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know if I'm gonna actually edit this. Is it even worth editing this? Only 5 people are gonna watch it. There's probably no point in editing this at all. Nobody reads books, let alone Stranger in a Strange Land by Robert A. Heinlein. Okay, goodbye.